Welcome everyone to chapter 3 of 6. This is an outline of my age between 20 years old and 30 years old. Now, this was a very busy time in my life. This is where I rehabilitated myself and got myself off drug use. I got married. I lost a child in this time period. And then there was the birth of my wonderful daughter, and then my divorce. And by the end of all that, you'd think I'd had enough. Well, I got remarried again for a new beginning. So please enjoy, watch. If you have any comments, any questions, leave them down in the comments section. Thank you. Welcome everybody to the third chapter, which is the age between 20 and 30 years old. All that time I was doing all the mischievous stuff in Australia when I was younger, between the ages of 17 and 20. All that time I never got myself in any trouble. I never got arrested. I don't know what handcuffs feel like. I never went to court. I never got in any sort of trouble. I don't know what a cell looks like, or the back of a police car. So that explains something was looking over me, and I made the right choices and kept away from the bad situations, even though some of my acquaintances got themselves in some serious trouble. One guy managed to shoot himself in the leg with his gun. He was so off his face. And then he got in trouble for the guns, and some crazy shit went down back then. Right, now I'm in my 20s. I've reached Greece, and I'm going cold turkey. Completely. The house wasn't ready, so we were staying down at my auntie's house with my mother's sister for the winter. We went from winter to winter. Double winter. You either get a double summer or a double winter because of the hemispheres. So, well, during the night when everybody was asleep, I'd sneak outside, wintertime, and jump in the ocean and swim. And some of my best swims were when there were thunderstorms outside. The air was just electrifying. And it was warm. The water was warm. I sat out there for hours. Well, that made me better. At some point, I started going out, hanging out with people and my cousins and stuff, and I ended up meeting my first wife. Within 9 months, we were married. Boy, was I in for a trip. We were married, and within a few months we'd left for Australia. I made her an offer for a new beginning without everybody in our hair, basically. And she agreed, and we went to Australia. And from there, I got myself a job, I got my act together, and we only stayed there 9 months. During that time period, she got pregnant, and we were going to have our first child. And she didn't want to have her child there, and she kept complaining everything's this and everything's that. And this had been going on for months anyway. She just wasn't happy being in Australia. She wanted her mother around, she wanted her dad around, she wanted a village or whatever. All right, so we packed it in on the nine months mark, and went back to Greece. Within that time, I'd gotten all the furnishings and stuff for a house, and I packed it into a 6 meter box, squares, and took it to Greece. Start house over there. At that time, my parents offered me a chance to start a business. They were going to invest in me. But I didn't know that their real intention was that I was going to work it and they were going to pocket the money. Which never happened, because I had just managed to get the whole business out of all its debts. Everything was paid off by the end of the season. Employees were paid and everything was paid off. So we could start the next season, next summer, on a clean slate and start profiting. Yes, the baby. What happened during that time as well was my wife gave birth to my son, my first son. I was approximately 22 or so years old, 23 I think, by that time. And the child died after 2 weeks. And I was so young and numb. I didn't know what was happening. I let everybody else take care of it. I couldn't, I lost something, but I wasn't sure what I'd lost. Within a year or so, she got pregnant again, and that was my daughter. That came along at a later date. I did the first business, and I told them we should close up for winter, and they argued with me, and I said, take it over then, and we put their name into the business and handed it over to them. And I knew that my military service was coming up. In Greece, if you are a descendant from Greek parents, even though you were born in another country, if you stay over a year in Greece at the time, you had to do your military service. That was fun too. That was an experience. All right, so I leave the business, the coffee shop, music bar with my parents, and they turned it into a restaurant. They tried to turn it into a restaurant, but it didn't work. And it was my fault, of course, that it didn't work. I helped them set it up too. All my free time, set up the cookers and the fridges for them and everything. I mean, I didn't leave bitterly, it wasn't a bitter battle or anything. It was just a handover. And plus, I had my military service to get to, and that was going to take almost 2 years. So they flunked the business and sank it and blamed themselves and blamed me and everybody else. For even the customers, they were blaming the customers. It's amazing. Because the customers wouldn't come back. They were blaming them. It's a mad discussion if you're in the same space with these people. It makes no sense. So I go, my daughter gets born, which is wonderful, and I take off for the military to do my service. She was just a little baby back then. I'd come home every month, and they would give me 1 week's leave and 1 week's travelling. So I'd get 2 weeks, approximately. And that, once a month for 18 months that I served. That was fair to me. But it seems like my wife wasn't agreeable with that one. At first, when I first used to come home, she'd be awake, waiting for me. And after a few months, she wouldn't get up. She'd play sleep. She'd just pretend she was sleeping. So I'd come home and no one to greet me at all. Nothing. No greetings or anything. I should have realised something was wrong back then. But I was starting to feel uncomfortable with it. Eventually I finished my military service, and we made a decision to work in her father's business, which was a photography shop. At the time when we went into the business to start working it was earning something like 3,500 drachmas a day. A pack of cigarettes was like 500 drachmas. Okay. Just to make you understand how low the income that was coming in. He had financial debts and problems, and he owed money here and he owed money there. So I decided to put my knowledge and know-how. I had done photography at school because I went to a technical school and we had a photography class for a couple of years. So I had a fair idea of what photography was and how it worked. And I took over the business with my wife. Within a year and a half, I'd managed to lift the daily intake to 45,000 drachmas a day. That was my average. I kept a little book and I filled it out every day. And I built that business, and we were living high. I was paying for her parents' rent. I was giving them a salary to live on, so they wouldn't have to come to the business at all, because he was just a really bad businessman. He'd wake up in a bad mood and he'd have a go at if a customer gave him a simple question, because they don't know photography, he would flip out on them. Now I know why he didn't have any business. And he was a short little man, and he had this Napoleon complex. I don't know if it really exists, but he wanted to be a bigger man. And he pretended like he knew something that other people didn't know. Amazing. During that time period, her parents knew that she was running around with other men. I don't put restraints on people. If she wants to go and see her cousin, or if she wants to go shopping, or if she wants to do something, she had that freedom from me. And that's what she took advantage of. Then, where am I now?
You got divorced.
My divorce, yes. Well, that was fun too. That was miserable. It was painful, very painful, divorcing. But I did end up custody. She kept the business because it was her father's business. I was paid a compensation for a year. We'd done this with the lawyers, got all that done. I was being compensated every month, I think it was, for a year. That kept me happy, financially comfortable, so I can find myself within that year. And so she gets the business, I get to keep the house, all the house stuff that we had, and custody of my daughter, which was a proud moment. I got custody of my daughter. And then she was able to visit her and pick her up and bring her back once the paperwork was finished. From there, I found a freedom. All that time, you see, ever since I was a soldier, I felt this coldness from her, this distance and attitude. And I needed something to release myself from her. And this is what happened. And that was the best release. I was free. The first thing I did, I bought myself a Casio watch. A nice Casio watch. And I also bought myself a bike. And I started bike riding. And then I got myself a first job over at the steel yards, yeah, cutting steel for construction. I went from photographer, a really easy job, to a really difficult, hard, physical job. And everybody knew me. I was in an area where I knew hundreds of people. And they sort of saw me drop from grace. But I didn't see it that way, that I dropped from grace. I thought I was going to, what I saw was I'm going to build myself up differently this time. I'm going to become someone else again, stronger than what I was, more determined, more. And this was going to help me. From starting from the steel yard and then going out into the construction sites, putting in the steel and tying it, baked me really well. I had, after I separated my wife, separation, within 2 weeks I had a girlfriend. I'd never been with another woman in all that period. And within 2 weeks I had another woman. I was surprised that it was so easy. I was out of the game for a long time, 7 years almost, I would say. And so that gave me confidence, because then there was a string of women after that, one after the other. All these relationships again, the same way that I had in my youth between 17 and 20. This whole string started happening again, and I'm hating myself. I am absolutely hating this thing. And I'm saying to myself, seriously, I'm not going to get married again. I can't. They're all wacko. I can't get married again. I just saw them all as people that I really could not see a long-term relationship with them. And then Nancy came along, which is my second wife. And she was 15 and I was 27. I couldn't resist. Love is strange. And 32 years later, and we're still here together. Even though everybody pointed out we weren't going to make it. Well, they shouldn't make vets, those people. They seriously should not make vets. They get it wrong. So, where am I? Ah, yes. Nobody wanted us to get married. Of course, I got arrested in Greece, taken to the police station, told off. And one day we went back to the police station as we went past, and the police were outside. And we slowed down, we told them we're getting married. And they all go, yay! Cool, you're getting married. It's all over. Do you remember that one? Barely. But to me, it was something. I wanted to show them I wasn't a bad guy. I had good intentions. And I did have good intentions with you. I tried some singing during that time period, but singing wasn't it. I didn't like getting home at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning after singing clubs all night. So I went back to the construction site. It was easier for me. I didn't have to drink all that alcohol and then try and sing. It was ridiculous. It doesn't work. I stayed in the construction and I made a choice. Back then I said, I'm not going to chase a musical career. I'm going to have a family and struggle, and I'll find my way. I will find my way. And that was it. We got married, and after a year and a half, took off to Australia. Okay, and that's the end of my 20s. Thank you for listening.